In many rural areas bordering dense forests, the increasingly frequent appearance of wolf packs has significantly changed the lives of local residents. At first, the wolves only moved quietly across the fields after nightfall, but before long their tracks began appearing almost every day. Each morning, residents discovered new signs of disturbance, such as displaced coop doors and poultry feathers scattered across the grass. For livestock owners, these were no longer random encounters but clear evidence that the wolves were beginning to view the farms as a reliable source of food. After reviewing footage from infrared cameras, residents realized that the wolves had become increasingly bold. They no longer appeared only briefly along the forest edge but began following fence lines and moving deeper into the farms. At night, some individuals even rushed directly into the livestock areas, grabbed chickens and quickly disappeared. More concerningly, the wolves sometimes approached homes in broad daylight, walking straight toward the chicken coops and causing the entire flock to scatter in panic. The footage showed that they were no longer afraid of human presence and were gradually treating the farms as a familiar feeding ground. As the wolves continued appearing around the farms, the farmers were forced to set up a trapping system to prevent further losses. They identified the routes most frequently used by the animals, then carefully concealed traps beneath soft soil and dry leaves so they blended into the surrounding environment. Bait was placed in suitable locations to draw the wolves closer, while every step of the process was carried out with gloves to minimize human scent. For an animal with such a powerful sense of smell, even the slightest unfamiliar trace could immediately raise suspicion and cause it to avoid the area. Over the following nights, the cameras recorded the wolves repeatedly approaching the trapping sites. They slowly followed the trails, paused to sniff the ground, and cautiously surveyed their surroundings before moving forward. Several individuals returned to the same locations multiple times and even stood very close to the bait, yet still refused to enter the trap's trigger zone. After several minutes of investigation, they changed direction and quietly disappeared into the darkness. Their cautious behavior demonstrated how difficult it was to approach a wolf pack, as the animals could quickly detect even the smallest changes along their familiar routes. After appearing around the area for several days while carefully keeping their distance, the wolves finally began to lower their guard. During one quiet night, the cameras recorded several individuals approaching the trapping site and repeatedly sniffing the ground. After several cautious inspections, one wolf slowly stepped forward and accidentally placed its foot on the trigger point, causing the trap to snap shut around its leg. Startled, the animal struggled violently and tried to pull itself away, but it was unable to escape. The remaining wolves quickly scattered into the darkness, leaving the trapped animal alone on the deserted trail. The following morning, while checking the locations prepared earlier, residents discovered that several wolves had been caught. The results showed that the trapping system was beginning to work after many days of patient monitoring and adjustments to the bait placement. Carefully selecting the wolves' regular travel routes had greatly improved the chances of success. However, because the animals continued to appear frequently around the farms, the residents could not yet relax. They therefore installed additional traps along newly identified routes and maintained camera surveillance, hoping to gradually bring the threat to the farms under control. As the chickens once again pecked peacefully around the yard, the residents understood that their initial efforts to protect the farms had begun to produce results. These early successes helped reduce losses, but they also demonstrated that dealing with an intelligent predator required carefully chosen measures. In the long term, the goal was not only to keep livestock safe but also to reduce conflict between humans and wildlife. Only by combining surveillance systems, stronger livestock enclosures, and responsible population management could rural communities maintain their livelihoods while preserving the natural balance of the surrounding environment.
Coyotes in color
In many forests across North America, the presence of wolves is rarely announced by haunting howls echoing through the wilderness. Instead, the first signs are often subtle. A few calves disappear from grazing pastures. Flocks of sheep begin huddling together every night as darkness falls. Livestock guardian dogs become unusually alert, constantly staring toward the deep forest. By the time fresh tracks appear clearly in the damp soil along the fence line, wildlife managers already know that a wolf pack has established a new travel route. The real concern is not their numbers, but their patience and calculated behavior. Once they identify a reliable food source, a wolf pack can return to the same location for weeks, leaving almost no trace of error in its movements. Wolves have long been regarded as some of nature's most intelligent predators. Every member of the pack plays a distinct role. The alpha wolf usually leads the way, while the others maintain strategic spacing to surround prey or cut off its escape route. This coordinated behavior also makes them far more difficult to manage. A foothold trap placed in the wrong location is almost useless, because if just one wolf detects something unusual, the entire pack will immediately alter its route and avoid the area for a long time. For that reason, the most critical stage is not setting the trap, but gathering information. Infrared cameras are positioned along mountain passes, stream banks, and forest trails. Night after night, thousands of images are collected to determine exactly when the wolves appear, which direction they travel, and how much distance they keep between one another. After weeks of monitoring, a clear pattern begins to emerge. Wolf packs rarely move at random. They consistently favor natural corridors that require the least amount of energy, often choosing narrow passages between hillsides or flat ground bordering the forest. These routes are used repeatedly, as though they were familiar pathways passed down from one generation to the next. Only after every piece of data has been analyzed is the steel foothold trap placed in position. No one sets the trap where it is simply the most convenient. Instead, it is carefully positioned at the exact spot where a wolf is most likely to place its paw while traveling. Camouflaging the trap demands almost flawless precision. The soil is sifted and spread back over the trap to match the natural color of the forest floor. Dry leaves, small branches, and stones are returned to their original positions as though no one had ever disturbed them. The people carrying out the work must also minimize human scent around the site, because a wolf's sense of smell is sensitive enough to detect the slightest change that would go completely unnoticed by humans.
Just because I want putting dirt clods. Y'all take it easy and just that.
Even with the trap perfectly concealed, however, the greatest challenge remains the caution of the alpha wolf. Whenever it encounters anything unfamiliar, it will usually stop, observe carefully, sniff the ground several times, and only then decide whether to move forward. That is why wildlife control teams must wait with extraordinary patience. Then, on a bitterly cold winter night, the long-awaited moment finally arrives. On the monitoring screen, the alpha wolf slowly follows its familiar trail. It pauses for a few seconds, lowers its nose to inspect the ground, and then continues forward. The instant its weight lands on the precisely calculated spot, the steel foothold trap is triggered. A rapid response team quickly arrives to handle the situation according to established wildlife management procedures, ensuring public safety while minimizing disturbance to the surrounding environment.
Nice. Man, what a beaut. What a beaut, guys. All right.
Yet controlling wolves has never ended with a single capture. The remaining pack members quickly adapt by changing their behavior, shifting to different travel routes, or adjusting their feeding schedule to avoid further danger. As a result, wildlife specialists must begin an entirely new cycle of observation. In this ongoing contest between humans and one of nature's most intelligent predators, the steel foothold trap is only a tool. The true deciding factors have always been patience, careful analysis, and a deep understanding of every habit within the wolf pack.
the presence of coyotes around a farm often goes unnoticed at first. Initially, people may only observe a few subtle changes in the animal's behavior. Poultry may refuse to enter the coop as usual, goats may repeatedly stare toward the fence, and guard dogs may suddenly bark for long periods in the middle of the night. At times, the sheep may huddle tightly together even though there is no obvious sound nearby. By morning, fresh tracks in the soft mud near the grazing area may finally confirm that a predator has entered the property. For the farmer, this is a sign that coyotes may have been watching the farm for several nights. To experienced trackers, every sign can reveal something about the animal's movements and behavior. Coyote tracks are usually narrow, with the toes positioned close together and pointing forward. They are smaller than gray wolf tracks and differ from those of domestic dogs, which tend to wander freely in different directions. Coyotes usually move with steady, evenly spaced steps, leaving a fairly straight trail with few unnecessary turns. They often travel along field edges, drainage ditches, low brush, old fence lines, or rarely used paths to conceal their presence. Before moving deeper into the farm, they may circle the area several times to identify places with the least protection. Coyotes rarely rush toward livestock during their first visit. They may spend several nights observing the farm from a distance, learning when people leave the area, where the guard dogs usually patrol, and where the livestock gather after dark. Their patience allows them to determine which areas are well protected and which weak points can be approached without making noise. As the signs become more frequent, a wildlife management team is called in to inspect the property. They examine the fences, study the tracks, evaluate possible access routes, and install cameras near water sources, brush, and other suspicious openings. After several nights of monitoring, the footage shows that the coyotes usually appear when the farm is at its quietest and leave before sunrise. Some remain at a distance and simply observe, while others follow the fence line or stop near familiar trails. Using the collected data, the specialists begin identifying the most frequently used routes and selecting suitable locations for traps. The equipment is deployed according to wildlife management procedures designed to reduce risks to livestock and non-target animals. Every step is carried out carefully to preserve the surrounding landscape. The soil is returned to its original position, dry leaves and grass are spread back over the ground, and signs of human activity are kept to a minimum. With their highly sensitive sense of smell, even an unfamiliar scent or a displaced branch can cause coyotes to change direction immediately. Over the following nights, the cameras continue to record the animals returning, although they do not approach the area right away. Some stop for several minutes to observe, while others circle the location before heading back toward the field. The specialists avoid rushing the process because any unusual activity could cause the entire group to change its route and stay away from the area for weeks. After several days of waiting, an alert near the trapping area indicates unusual movement early one morning. When the wildlife management team arrives to inspect the site, they find that several coyotes have been caught along their familiar travel routes. The goal of the operation is not to completely remove coyotes from the area, but to reduce the threat to livestock and prevent further conflict. When one route becomes dangerous, the remaining animals may quickly switch to another path, change their feeding schedule, or move into a neighboring area. For this reason, trapping alone cannot provide a long-term solution. After the control operation, the farmer must still reinforce the fences, remove leftover food, move livestock into secure enclosures before dark, and continue using surveillance cameras.
In recent weeks, residents living near the forest have repeatedly reported packs of wolves appearing around farms and livestock areas. At first, the wolves stayed at a considerable distance, but over time they gradually moved closer to places where domestic animals were kept. People frequently spotted them traveling along forest edges, fences, and paths leading into agricultural areas. Most sightings occurred at dawn or shortly after sunset. As the frequency of their appearances increased, livestock owners became increasingly concerned about the safety of their cattle, poultry, and the surrounding farming areas. After observing the situation for some time, residents realized that the wolves' repeated visits were mainly caused by changes in their natural habitat. Food sources within the forest had become scarcer, forcing the animals to expand their hunting range in search of prey. Farms containing livestock, poultry, and small domestic animals offered an easier food source than the forest itself. After several successful hunting attempts, the wolves gradually memorized these locations and repeatedly returned along the same familiar routes. As a result, sightings around farming areas became increasingly common. In response to the growing problem, local residents began implementing a trapping program to control the movement of the wolf packs. Areas where the wolves frequently traveled were carefully monitored before suitable trap locations were selected. Forest edges, game trails, and sections near fences were prioritized for trap placement. Bait was also prepared to increase the likelihood of attracting wolves as they passed through the area. Throughout the setup process, the surrounding environment was kept as natural as possible to reduce suspicion and encourage the wolves to approach according to their normal behavior. After several days, the residents inspected the entire trap system that had been installed throughout the area. The results showed that several wolves had been successfully captured at different trap locations. As soon as they were discovered, everything was handled according to the planned procedures to ensure the safety of both the workers and the surrounding livestock. The area was carefully cleared before the next stage of the operation continued. At the same time, the effectiveness of each trap location was evaluated to determine which positions worked best and which required adjustment in order to improve future control efforts.
Just in the last 2 months.
Although many wolves had already been captured, the packs continued appearing around the area during the following days. This indicated that numerous individuals were still active near the farms and that the threat had not yet been completely eliminated. Residents quickly decided to install additional traps in locations that had proven more effective based on continued observation. Several trap sites were relocated to improve coverage, while additional bait was placed to increase the chances of attracting the wolves. Once the adjustments were completed, the entire trapping system remained in operation and continued to be monitored regularly in preparation for future inspections. During the following inspection periods, the trap system continued to prove effective as more wolves were gradually captured at the newly adjusted locations. Residents quickly handled each captured animal and reset the traps so the system would remain ready for continued use. Regular inspections combined with well-planned trap placement gradually improved the overall effectiveness of the control program. Over time, wolf sightings around the farms became less frequent, allowing agricultural activities to return to normal. Even so, residents continued maintaining the trap system and other protective measures to reduce the risk of wolves returning in the future, helping protect livestock and maintain long-term safety throughout the farming area.
What makes wolves a nightmare for many farms is not only their speed or razor-sharp fangs, but also the way they appear silently before people even realize they are there. For several nights in a row, a pack of wolves crept in from the edge of the forest. They memorized the location of the animal pens and observed every movement around the farm. It was only when several chickens disappeared, leaving behind scattered feathers, that everyone understood the farm had become a target. From that moment on, the confrontation was no longer simply about protecting livestock, but had turned into a prolonged battle of wits between humans and one of nature's most cunning predators. Instead of rushing to set traps, the wildlife management team chose to monitor the wolves for several days. Infrared cameras were installed along forest trails, beside fences, and in areas where fresh tracks were frequently discovered. Every recording was reviewed several times to determine when the wolves appeared, which direction they approached from, and how close they came to the livestock area. Night after night, a clearer picture gradually emerged. The wolves were not moving randomly. They repeatedly followed familiar routes, using darkness and the surrounding terrain to avoid human attention. Once their movement patterns had been identified, the trapping operation began. Every location was selected based on camera footage and signs found in the field. The people setting the traps wore gloves, minimized their scent, and carefully concealed each trap beneath layers of soil, dry leaves, and decaying grass. Afterward, all footprints were erased, and every disturbed branch was returned to its original position. Even the smallest unusual detail could make a wolf suspicious and cause it to change course, so careful preparation became the deciding factor in the entire operation. The following days remained tense. Cameras repeatedly captured wolves approaching the trapping area, slowly sniffing the ground before becoming alert. Sensing that something was different, they refused to move any closer and quietly turned away. Some returned during the following nights, but they kept a safe distance and watched from afar. Rather than immediately changing the plan, the residents continued monitoring the cameras, recording the time of each appearance, the direction of travel, and the trails the wolves used most often. After several days, the residents realized that the wolves were exceptionally cautious and appeared to have detected the unusual changes around the area. Instead of continuing to wait at the original location, they quietly changed their approach and installed additional traps along the trails the wolves regularly used. Every step was carried out carefully to leave as little evidence as possible. After many nights of patient observation, the long-awaited moment finally arrived. A wolf entered the new location and triggered the trap. When the residents returned the following morning, they understood that the result had not come from luck, but from persistent observation, careful behavioral analysis, and constant tactical adjustment. Even so, the confrontation was far from over. The remaining wolves quickly changed their approach. They stopped using the old routes and began following the forest edge, moving through dense brush and approaching the fence from more concealed angles. In response, the residents installed additional cameras, reinforced the livestock enclosures, repaired openings, and repositioned traps according to the latest signs. The struggle between the people and the wolf pack was no longer a short-term operation, but an ongoing process in which both sides continued adapting in an effort to gain the advantage. The threat had not truly disappeared. Infrared cameras showed wolves silently approaching the livestock pens before suddenly charging toward the panicked chickens. They repeatedly drove the birds into narrow corners, attacked in rapid succession, and disappeared with their prey. The footage revealed how even a small opening could carry serious consequences for farmers. For that reason, the conflict with wolves does not end after a single successful trapping attempt. It requires constant monitoring, stronger enclosures, and continuously changing strategies, because these predators are always watching, remembering, and searching for another way to return.
Do you know what is truly terrifying about wolves? It is not their sharp teeth, and it is not their chilling howls echoing through the dark. The most frightening thing is that by the time people realize they have been close, it is often already too late. They do not rush in and attack during the first few nights. Instead, they watch in silence, memorizing every fence line and every narrow trail around the chicken coop. And when several chickens suddenly disappear without leaving a trace, people finally understand that the hunt has truly begun. But this time, the prey is not only the helpless chickens inside the coop. It is also a tense battle of intelligence between humans and one of the smartest, most patient, and most unpredictable predators in North America. After receiving the report, wildlife managers do not rush into the forest with traps right away. They begin by setting up a monitoring camera system, aiming it toward narrow paths, fence lines, and the areas around the farm. The cameras are placed low enough to record the movement of each individual animal, but hidden well enough so the wolves do not become suspicious. For many nights in a row, every movement in the darkness is recorded. The time the wolves appear, the direction they travel, the number of animals in the group, and even the distance between them are all carefully reviewed. Once the travel route has been identified, the trapping process begins. Every location is calculated carefully based on the data collected earlier. The trapper must work with extreme caution to avoid leaving behind human scent. A shallow bed is dug just deep enough, then covered with a fine layer of soil, so the surface looks completely natural. Every footprint around the area is erased before anyone leaves. Just one branch bent in the wrong direction, one overturned stone, or the faint smell of metal left behind can be enough for a wolf to detect danger and avoid the area completely. At this point, the conflict is no longer about strength. It becomes a contest of patience and the ability to deceive the senses of a predator. Many days pass, and the trap remains hidden beneath the soil while the cameras continue recording wolves moving through the area. Some individuals come very close, stop to sniff the ground, and then quietly turn away. They're not careless. They examine even the smallest changes in their surroundings before taking another step. One wolf may return to the same exact spot the next night simply to make sure nothing unusual has appeared. This nearly perfect level of caution is why many trapping operations can continue for weeks, and sometimes even months, before producing any result. After many days of silent waiting, the decisive moment finally arrives. Within a short period of time, several wolves are caught and held in place. The next morning, wildlife managers return to the site and find a major result after days of quiet observation, tracking footprints, checking night cameras, and carefully calculating the movement route of the entire pack. The outcome shows that the trapping plan was placed in the right direction, while also helping reduce the pressure the wolves had been putting on the surrounding area. But the remaining wolves quickly change their approach. Around the farms, they quietly move closer to the fences, sniff around small gaps, and search for new ways to reach the chickens. That forces people to keep adapting as well. Cameras are moved closer to the chicken coop, fences are inspected more carefully, and trap locations must be adjusted according to the pack's new movement patterns. This is no longer a simple one-time response. It has become a long-running confrontation between the hunting instincts of wolves and the persistence of people trying to protect their livestock. Across the vast forests of North America, as night falls once again, the wolves continue to move silently along the same familiar routes. Somewhere in the darkness, infrared cameras keep recording every step, every pause, and every movement. Perhaps the most remarkable thing is not the perfectly hidden traps or the modern equipment placed in the forest. It is the extraordinary ability of wolves to adapt after thousands of years of survival. The struggle between humans and nature has never been only a story of strength. It is a battle of patience, intelligence, and the ability to understand one another. Things rarely begin with a loud attack. They begin with subtle signs, so small they are almost overlooked amid the familiar rhythm of life on the farm. A flock of sheep suddenly huddles tightly into the corner of a pen in the middle of the night. The guard dogs bark relentlessly toward the dark forest. By the next morning, a few deep tracks appear in the damp soil beside the fence. They do not belong to domestic dogs, nor do they resemble the prints of foxes or coyotes. Long toes, evenly spaced strides, and a straight path, as if the animal that left them had passed through this place many times before. The wolves had returned. Along the border where farmland meets the mountains and forest, the return of wolves always brings a quiet sense of unease. They do not hunt recklessly. Instead, they watch patiently, memorize the habits of their prey, and use the cover of darkness to move closer little by little. A lone wolf is dangerous enough, but a coordinated pack is far more unpredictable. They may spread out across an area, test the reactions of livestock, inspect fences, and wait for the weakest moment before making their move. That is why trapping wolves is never as simple as setting a trap and hoping for luck. Wildlife managers begin by reading the entire landscape as though it were a living map. They study old game trails, dry creek beds, forest edges, hillsides, and open spaces that wolves naturally use as travel routes. From these details, they understand one essential truth. Before you can control a wolf, you must first understand how it thinks. The greatest challenge lies not in the trap itself, but in patience. Wolves are extraordinarily cautious animals. A single unfamiliar scent, a patch of disturbed soil, or even a newly placed object can be enough to make one change its route. Specialized wildlife teams never rush to intervene. They spend time monitoring wind direction, the hours when wolves appear, the intervals between their movements, and their reactions to even the smallest changes in the environment. Once clear patterns begin to emerge, an ambush point is carefully selected along a natural travel corridor the wolf frequently uses. It is not the widest location, nor the easiest to see, but the place the animal is almost certain to step through if it intends to continue along its familiar route. The trap is prepared according to established wildlife management protocols, minimizing risk while avoiding unnecessary disturbance to other species. Everything around it is left almost untouched. The forest remains silent, the ground stays blanketed with dry leaves, and the trail appears as though no human hand has ever disturbed it. Then, on a cold night as mist begins to settle over the valley, the monitoring screen captures a familiar movement in the darkness. A wolf appears at the edge of the frame. It does not rush, nor does it seem alarmed. It pauses for a few seconds, lifts its head to test the air, and then continues forward. Every step is slow but deliberate. The observers can hardly breathe. In the very next moment, as the wolf steps into the carefully calculated position, the trap mechanism is triggered. The silence of the forest is shattered in an instant. The rapid response team immediately moves in, following established safety procedures. For them, this is not a battle to prove humanity's strength against nature. It is a mission to balance livestock protection, reduce human-wildlife conflict, and responsibly manage one of nature's most intelligent predators. Yet even after one wolf has been captured, the story is far from over. The remaining members of the pack will change their behavior. They may avoid their old route, become active later at night, or seek out deeper, more secluded paths through the forest. Wolf trapping, therefore, is not simply a story about equipment or technique. It is a prolonged battle of strategy between humans and a predator that can observe, remember, and adapt. In the wild, where every footprint carries a message, victory does not belong to the impatient. It belongs to those who have the patience to listen to the forest, read every sign it leaves behind, and act at precisely the right moment.
During the first few days, the livestock farm remained peaceful. The animals were taken to pasture each morning. The fences were intact, and no one noticed danger. However, that sense of security was soon disrupted by unexplained changes. A few animals strayed from the herd and disappeared. Poultry numbers declined, and long trails of tracks appeared near the forest edge. Within a few nights, the tracks became more frequent, suggesting predators were quietly moving closer. Wildlife management teams quickly arrived to investigate. Based on the size and direction of the tracks, they determined these were not left by a single animal passing through. Travel routes appeared along the creek bank, through brush, and across connected game trails. The wolf pack seemed to have been watching for days, testing routes and learning which locations received little attention. They avoided open ground and approached livestock from directions difficult to monitor. To determine the pack size and timing, specialists installed cameras around the grazing area. The devices were placed along narrow trails, near a dry creek bed, and in open spaces between forest sections. After several nights, the wolves' behavior became clearer. They were not wandering aimlessly, but following familiar routes. At times, the pack traveled closely together, while individual wolves sometimes split off to scout. Their changing schedules made their movements difficult to predict. The data showed the situation could not be resolved through a single action. Wolves are highly observant, quick to react, and especially alert to unfamiliar scents or signs. If they detect a new device, disturbed ground, or unusual activity, they may immediately abandon the route. For this reason, the control plan was divided into several stages. The teams continued monitoring their movements and identifying wolves that frequently approached the farm before selecting an appropriate strategy. In certain areas, licensed and experienced hunters use bows and arrows. This method does not depend on chasing the animals, but requires patience, careful observation, and a strong understanding of wolf behavior.
Then another.
Trackers must read footprints, determine the wind direction, and choose concealed position. They observe from a distance, make little noise, and wait for the animal to move within range. A single careless movement can cause a wolf to change direction and disappear. Even so, this method rarely produces quick results. Wolves often leave shelter in low-light conditions, move through heavy cover, and seldom remain still for long. On many occasions, cameras recorded them for only a few seconds before they vanished. By the time the control team arrived, all that remained were fresh tracks. The pursuit became a prolonged battle of wits, with the pack constantly changing its schedule to maintain an advantage. When monitoring and direct hunting failed to produce results, specialists added trapping to plan. Instead of placing traps randomly, they used camera footage and fresh tracks to identify locations the wolves visited most often. Foothold traps and cage traps were the two main types used. Each served a different purpose, but both had to be deployed by trained professionals, operated according to regulations, and inspected regularly. Even a minor mistake could cause the entire pack to alter its behavior. Foothold traps were usually placed along narrow trails where wolves had passed repeatedly. Cage traps could capture, assess, or relocate an animal according to established procedures. However, choosing the correct location was only the beginning. Wolves have a sensitive sense of smell and easily detect changes. If soil is disturbed, vegetation moved, or an unfamiliar scent appears, they may stop and take another route. Specialists therefore leave little trace while adjusting their strategy. Ultimately, managing a wolf pack depends on more than cameras, bows, or traps. It is a process of gathering information, analyzing behavior, and adapting to an intelligent species. Every footprint, every frame of footage, and every change in the pack's direction helps people understand the wolves more clearly. In the wilderness, the advantage usually belongs to whoever remains patient, observes carefully, and correctly anticipates the opponent's next move. Share your thoughts and stay tuned for more stories.